Lovely. Well, good morning, beloved. Good morning. Where am I? Okay. Hi. Good morning. I have some announcements for the good of the community. I'll be as concise, efficient, and brief as possible. So just bear with me. This morning, right after the service, the 9 o'clock service, around 10:15 or 10:30, who knows when this is going to end, we'll have a children and youth religious education town hall. So all the children, youth are welcome to stay, parents, also, please, and all the other adults too that are involved with the program. We invite you to please stay. We're going to have some conversations and share some of the plans that we have with you, and very importantly, take your input and your insight. Is that cool? Yes? All right, cool. Thank you. On January 23rd, we're going to be welcoming new members to our congregation. So if you're thinking about it, there's still time. Let me know. We'll talk about it. I had 3 dates on the calendar, so it was, recorded with some members that are planning to go steady with us. So let me know if you're falling in love with us. Maybe for a second time, who knows? Okay, opportunities to serve. We could use, and thank you, Rick, for doing the video this morning for us, and we would appreciate having another person, maybe two, to help with video. And you don't have to have any experience. We'll teach you. We'll help you with that. And isn't this great? I can walk away and it's still, yeah? All right. So here, no pressure, since your husband is already doing it. But I think those are all the announcements I have for the good of the community. And unless there's any burning thing I'm missing, I'm looking at Vicky. No? Okay, good. All right, so for our official welcome, I have the honor and the pleasure to partner with Hank Florence this morning in this worship celebration. So let's welcome Hank. Woo! Yes.
Well, thank you very much, everybody. Good morning.
Good morning.
All right, we're all here together. Welcome to this Sunday morning service of Sierra Foothills Unitarian Universalists. My name is Hank Florence. Thank you, Rev. Alex. And I am truly so glad to be with you all this morning. Whether you're here in person or you're joining us from home, and again, a shout out to Rick and our fantastic tech community that puts this all together. Woo-hoo. Guys. I watched from home last week and it was wonderful. So thank you. Also joined today by our fantastic musical director, Patty Leftridge, our wonderful director of religious education, Adrienne Dills. Where's Adrienne? There she is in the back. And our services cover a wide variety of topics every week. They help us explore different spiritual paths that each of us are on, as well as what it means to promote freedom, justice, and equality for all. Services are usually led by our minister, Reverend Alex de Silva Soto, and with worship partners from our congregation. And every Sunday is a little bit different, so if this is your first Sunday, we invite you to come back. But each and every Sunday here resonates with the same love and care to support each of us on our own spiritual journeys. So if this is your first Sunday again, please come back. It's our purpose to nurture the individual spiritual path of each person and build a common faith based on our shared core values, which include recognizing the inherent worth and dignity of all people and a quest for justice and equality in our community and in the world. In this congregation, we ask you to bring all of who you are, all of your questions, your yearning for peace and justice, your worries and your joys, so that we may be shared. We may share all of this as a community. Wherever you are on your spiritual journey, we invite you into this community of searchers and seekers. And now we ask you, as we begin, to please take your cell phones and silence them so that we may be fully present in this time and place. Let us worship together.
Thank you, Hank. And we also have the delight to have Ann White joining us in the worship team this morning. And Sam and Milo, is it both of you? Yeah. Lighting the chalice, being the official lighter, as Anne leads us in these opening words. Gentlemen. Thank you.
For as soon as I heard the sound of your greeting, the child in my womb leapt for joy. Luke 1:44. This is well timed.
How perfect is that?
This is a poem by Jan Richardson. For joy you can prepare, but still it will come to you by surprise, crossing through your doorway, calling your name in greeting, turning like a child who quickens suddenly within you. It will astonish you how wide your heart will open in welcome for the joy that finds you so ready and yet still so unprepared.
Mm-hmm. Thank you, Anne. And friends, you probably know, unless you're here for the first time. No? Yes, yes. Welcome. Glad you're here. So we're not singing indoors yet because we didn't have vaccination for children. Now we do, over the age of 5, which is awesome. And we're discussing about singing indoors in our recently reconvened task force. So we're going to be talking about that. So we will have singing eventually. I have faith, I'm a person of faith, that we'll sing indoors at some point, masked nonetheless, but we'll sing indoors. But we have an opening song that I invite you to open your ears, your hearts, your eyes, yourself to receive it. So you heard part 1 of why Hank was singing from the door. But there's something that dawned on me, and I shared with Hank, that it really aligns with the theme for today, which is happiness and joy. We're going to reflect on that. And to me, it symbolized how happiness and joy, and I'll argue for joy even more, is sometimes where we can't really see or hear faintly behind us or just right at the door. And the only thing we got to do is to invite it in. So maybe you buy that for $1, maybe you won't. But the folks at home got some extra privilege today because they could see Hank. And thank you, Rick, for working with the camera. So if you wonder what he looked like, you can go home and go to our YouTube channel and experience this joy once again. Yeah? So thank you, and thank you. And thank you to our beloved Adrian Dills, who's got a story for our ages for today. No, okay. So yeah, we're moving right along. Thank you to joys and sorrows. That's me. Okay. Hi. So when you come to church, just in case you were experiencing no joy, especially those weeks that you're experiencing no joy at all, you will be greeted by this book that says joy on it. It says joy and also sorrow, right? Because we're here to share one another's joys, because we know it multiplies and it's contagious, right? Joy is a contagion, a good one, not like Corona, that we'll avoid and we'll get vaccinated and boosted. Just a thought, not an imposition. And and we know that the pain, the suffering, the sorrows can be experienced a little more lightly when we know we're not going through it alone. We have joyous people and lovely people, and also sorrowful people that will walk with us. So welcome to add your prayers here. And for our beloved siblings at home, you can go on our website, and there's an email there, joys and sorrows, at what's our website? Thank you. Yes. It will be engraved in your hearts at one point. And you can share your prayers with us, knowing that it needs to be public information. So if you're praying for somebody, if you're lifting somebody in concern, in your thoughts, in your meditations, make sure that that person is okay with you sharing their situation, because it goes out into our e-beacon, which is our newsletter that goes out every week. Thank you, Vicky, where we share the joys and the concerns for our community. So let's continue in the spirit of joy, and meditation, as we remember those in our community with reasons to celebrate. And in particular, this morning, we are remembering and lifting up Dave and Kia Hash. Both of them celebrate their birthdays in this fall season. And Dave is celebrating his 95th round around the sun today. So, hi Dave, happy birthday. Yes, wonderful. And Pam? No, I thought I saw Pam. No, but Pam is doing well. Millie is doing well. Alyssa, that broke her elbow, is doing well. She's going to be here at the 11 o'clock service in case you want to see her. So this is a report on our beloved in our community that had some health concerns. Nick Ladas is celebrating his 90th birthday. 9 decades, isn't amazing? And it's this weekend, and he's with his family and friends, and one of his granddaughters has made the trip from Germany to be here with her grandpa. I also want to share a great joy that there were other ministers before me. Can you imagine that? Right? There were. And Reverend AJ, Reverend Wendy, and Reverend Lynn and I have entered into a covenant, a ministerial covenant, and we are in full agreement that anybody from the congregation that wishes to reestablish contact with them are more than welcome to do so. Yeah? Awesome. And Reverend AJ has a Facebook page in case you want to find him there. And yeah, it's awesome. I really love them, and I'm really grateful for all the work that they did. So I could show up and have practically nothing to do, just be silly. So beloved, let's take a deep in breath. As we breathe in together, as we breathe out together, we recognize that we are one beloved community that we are one body, that we are part of one another's lives, including the ups and the downs, including the moments of great challenge, when we deeply know the value of friendship, of partnership, of community. So let us remember all those this morning, celebrating, rejoicing, with many reasons to be grateful, and also those who struggled to simply get out of bed, and those who couldn't make it yet out of bed this day, those who are concerned about the coming of tomorrow because of challenging work environments, because of lack of fair labor and employment. Let's remember all of those that struggle during the season of shorter days, and those who struggle with the idea of broad and wide celebrations while they don't feel in the spirit of celebration. Those experiencing blue Christmases. And we breathe in together once more. And we breathe out in our commitment to be there with and for one another. Blessed be. Blessed be. Thank you. Yeah, awesome. And we'll continue receiving the blessing of music. All right, so let me remember my days of being a drag queen. So, you ready for this? A big review. Well, thank you. But since I'm a reverend, let me put on my stole so it reminds you that I'm a reverend, and very reverent at that. I joke a little bit, and let me point to my papal shoes over there. Red as they are. Thank you in case you missed it. Don't miss a thing. It's a special thing, right? So thank you. Well, but the theme for this morning, once again, in case you missed it, it's happiness and joy, and things that may bring you happiness and joy. But is there a distinction between happiness and joy? Because oftentimes, in my experience, I hear people using it interchangeably. Did I get that right? Yeah. Interchangeably. And it can be a little bit confusing, I think, because both philosophically, theoretically, and I'll talk about some theorists here, and theologically, there is a distinction. You all right? So this is the question. So let's look at the definition of joy in the Merriam-Webster dictionary. The term happiness is used in the context of mental or emotional states, including positive or pleasant emotions ranging from contentment to intense joy. And here the words from Gautama Buddha, the historical Buddha, also known as Siddhartha Gautama, right? Here's what he had to say. When the mind is pure, joy follows like a shadow that never leaves. When the mind is pure, joy follows like a shadow that never leaves. And now here's from my systematic theology professor, Mr. Miroslav Vov, a very renowned scholar. And this is what he had to say. Blessings. Joy is the emotional dimension of the good life, of a life that is both going well and is being lived well. Should I read that again? Maybe? Okay. Yeah. Because I'm going to disagree with them. So let me read it again. Joy is the emotional dimension of the good life, of a life that is both going well and is being lived well. Yeah. I'll address him later. And this is the beauty of graduating. You don't have to agree with your professors anymore. I respect him greatly, but this is what Ingrid Vettel-Lee, a designer, and some of you know that I study design. I'm an architect, so very much interested in forms and shapes of things and shades, and yeah. And here's a coinky-dinky, which is a funny word. Mr. Hank also, in his preparation for this morning, came across the same scholar, right? So we're both going to be talking a little bit about her work. And this is what she had to say. About joy. Joy is an intense, momentary experience of positive emotion. So an intense, yet momentary experience of positive emotions. I'm intrigued, so let's dig in a little deeper. So Ingrid Vettel-Lee, she has taken on the study of joy. She traveled around the world. She's written a book. She wrote the book Joyful, The Surprising Power of Ordinary Things to Create Extraordinary Happiness. I feel like I need to repeat everything I say because it's so long. Joyful, the surprising power of ordinary things to create extraordinary happiness. So with a book like that and a title like that, it hints into some really deep scholarship and a lot of ink being spilled to talk about something that might be simple, like joy, or not. However, she caught the attention of many folks interested not only in design, but the study and the psychology of happiness and joy. And she delved into the definition and understanding, both from psychological and anthropological understandings of happiness and joys. So much that she has a TED Talk. So for you all that enjoy TED Talks, here's the title of her TED Talk: Where Joy Hides and How to Find It. So if you lose your joy, she might be able to help you because she knows where it hides and how you can find it. But through her work, she found out, or she postulates and asserts, that joy hides in colorful objects, and abundant number of objects, round objects, and elevating objects. Yes? A little bit different from the last message I remember about consumerism and things and accumulating. So she's postulating that colorful things, hence my outfit today. Googly eyes, also another thing that can be creepy. However, she argues, put a googly eye on something and somebody will probably buy it. And she has gone into this fantastical hotel in Japan that has every color of the rainbow, plus some new colors they created, and round shapes. I mean, the building is filled with round shapes and colorful, which to me sounds like a nightmare, to be very honest, and a place where you would go not to sleep. I mean, yeah. But here's a very important question that she poses, and I'm also interested, and I offer to you. Are there universally joy-generating things? Are there? Her answer, you just heard, right? But here's the question. Are there universally generating joy things in life? She also believes that cherry blossoms, so something a little more subtle and natural, can generate that experience of joy. Also rainbows, I mentioned rainbows, but just a natural rainbow out there in the world. People see it, and they tend to communicate that rainbow caused them to feel joy. And hence my glasses, because with these glasses, I don't know why, but I see lots of rainbows with it. Literally, I don't know. I tried to clean the lens. I can't explain it, but you're free to try it afterwards. Maybe it will bring you joy. But let's go a little deep into happiness right now. And happiness has been studied as a legitimate subject in universities since the 60s. Anybody surprised? Thank you. Yes, since the 60s, it's been studied in gerontology, the study of aging, right? Social psychology, positive psychology, clinical psychology, medical researchers, bunch of them, and happiness economics. Do you know that that's a thing? Happiness economics, right? Okay, so what is happiness? According to Psychology Today, there are 3 different levels of happiness. The emotional, which is the balance between positive and negative emotions. Positive emotion, joy. A negative emotion, anxiety. And some of you may suffer from anxiety. I'm not alone. Okay, yes. So a balance between those experiences and the experiences of joy that can get you a person to say, I'm happy. I'm within the happy zone, right? Now, 2, self-reflective. Cognitive self-judgment about our life in a general long-term sense. If somebody asks you, are you a happy person? I'm a happy person. Yes, my parents this, my grandparents that, whatever that may be, right? Thank you, not alone. Yet, I'm happy, I consider myself as a happy person. So, your own assessment, right? 3rd one, fulfillment of human potential. So, it's about flourishing. Florence, flourishing. And finding meaning in life, right? So, this is about your vocational inclinations. Something that you want to do in your life and have a way to make a living, right? And pay your bills and survive through doing what brings you happiness. Now, let's go into another scholar who I tend to align a little bit more because he goes into the very critical question of distinguishing happiness and joy, and that's C.S. Lewis. I don't agree with everything, so I'm not saying he's perfect, but here is what he has to say. I sometimes wonder whether all pleasures are not substitute for joy. So you're using the word pleasure here, right? Pleasure and joy. I call it joy, which is here a technical term and must be sharply distinguished from happiness and pleasure. Joy, in my sense, has indeed one characteristic, and one only, in common with them. The fact that anyone who has experienced it will want it again. I doubt whether anyone who has tasted would ever, if both were in his power or her power or their power, because we're inclusive, right? Exchange it for all the pleasures in the world. But then joy is never in our power, and pleasure often is. Should I read that again? Joy is never in our power, but pleasure is. So, seeing some distinction there? And I know he's going a little bit deeper here, maybe splitting a bit of hairs or not, but he's saying happiness, he's saying pleasure, and he's saying joy. Joy is out of our control. Pleasure in our power, right? So let me go to Michaela, my last scholar for today, perhaps. No, I'm going to bring George Bernard Shaw too. So, Michaela Summa distinguishes joy and happiness. This is what she says. Joy accompanies the process through and through, whereas happiness seems to be more strictly tied to the moment of achievement of the process. Joy is not only a direct emotional response to an event that is embedded in our life concerns, but is also tightly bound to the present moment. Whereas happiness presupposes an evaluative stance concerning one period of one's life or one's own life as a whole. This is the true joy in life. Now it's George Bernard Shaw. This is the true joy in life. The being used for a purpose recognized by yourself as a mighty one. The being thoroughly worn out before you are thrown on the scrap heap. The being a force of nature, instead of a feverish, selfish little clod of ailments and grievances, complaining that the world will not devote itself to making you happy. Woo! All right, so I'll pause here on these two, insert myself a little bit more, and wrap it up with a beautiful bow, very colorful, googly eyes on the wrapping. But I would pose, so here's me, right, that happiness is really the momentary and the conditional. Because I tend to feel happy when things are going well. Yes? When I have my favorite things. Yes? When I'm in love. Yes? When my work is going well and I'm not pulling my hair out. Yes? When I'm able to pay my bills. So all those things tend to make me feel like I'm having a good day, which is a term, right? You're having a bad day or a good day, right? Happiness. But this joy thing, is this thing something that can exist even when my relationship is in shambles, right? I'm having a really bad hair day, and there are bullies in my school, and I have many different words for them, that I'm not going to use it, because maybe they are something more than that. And most importantly, why is my joy dependent on them being nice, being at least decent and respectful and good friends, right? So can I keep that instead of allowing folks that are probably really unhappy, right, to take that joy from me? So I believe there is that thing called joy that exists within, maybe the little light that may dim a little bit, but nobody can blow it out. Yeah? And we're able to protect it. Right? And guess what? The most important thing for me about this whole question, or happiness and joy, is that it is our inheritance. You know this fancy word, inheritance? So all that your loved ones, your family, even your friends that have worked for, give to you and bless you with it, right? It is yours. You were born with it. Yeah? Therefore, nobody can take it from you. So that's my encouragement to you in particular, yes? Because you might be able to remember a little bit better than some of us that may not remember what we were born with, right? Because this whole physical body has changed quite a bit, right? The whole thing, like not one cell within 7 years, right? They all change. We'll get into science a little bit later, but you get the point. The joy, this joy thing, is yours. It's been there all along. Babies are joyful if you change their diapers and if you feed them, right? If they get enough sleep. So if your diapers are changed, if you get enough food and enough sleep, yeah, maybe all the other reasons shouldn't be, so powerful to possibly rob you of this thing called joy. Happiness comes and goes, and it's about judgment, evaluative, and the judgment of others. How can you be happy if you look like this? How can you be happy if you have this or don't have that, right? But this joy, there's one other Buddhist word I would like to offer you, and that will be more Buddhist reflection next Sunday with our beloved Maureen. It's called equanimity, right? It's this line that exists, that joy exists in it. It's not about the ups and the downs. With that, I'll wrap it up, and I'll invite our beloved Hank to come forward and to give you another breather. Let me bring some Sufism into the mix, because I love Rumi. So this is what Jalal ad-Din Rumi had to say. If you knew yourself for even one moment, if you could just glimpse your most beautiful face, maybe you wouldn't slumber so deeply in the house of clay. Why not move into your house of joy and shine into every crevice? For you are the secret treasure bearer and always have been. Didn't you know?
Thank you, Reverend Alex. Joy. It's an interesting thing to think about. And when Reverend Alex first spoke to me a few weeks ago about the topic and what we'd be talking about today, it took me about a week to sort of ruminate and think about the conflicted nature of joy that I feel in my life at times. I'll just start out by saying that I think of myself as a very joyful person. I'm quick to laugh. I love talking to people. I love joking. I love finding out what brings people joy. Mm-hmm. In fact, I'd like to say I actively seek out joy in my life. I try to spend as much of my time during the day doing things that I like. But the thing is, I was born in 1982, which put me in a weird generational thing between the Gen Xers and the millennials. I'm the oldest millennial and the youngest Gen Xer. And I'm basically, avocado toast being Instagrammed on my left and cynical flannel-wearing Pearl Jam fans on my right. And it was not cool to be joyful. But what was I supposed to do? Like I just said, I am naturally a joyful person.
Woo!
But wait a second. Is my proclivity for joy actually part of my nature? Or have my surroundings, my largely happy childhood, my comfortable suburban middle-class upbringing, my cisgendered maleness, my race, my height, in short, my privilege, has that shaped my joyful picture, this joyful picture of straight white maleness standing in front of you today? Would I be less naturally disposed towards joy if I were missing one or more of these societally advantageous traits? Does my knowledge and acceptance of my privilege absolve me of this guilt and shame that I feel whenever I see how easy my life is compared to basically every other demographic? Does being so joyful while others often struggle to find joy in their lives make me selfish and irresponsible? Is even just the assumption that people who are less fortunate, that they're necessarily less joyful, is that just another indication of a false dichotomy taught to me about people whose lifestyles differ from the mainstream, the straight waspiness of life? Great. So much for joy, right? There it goes. Now I'm just sad and angry. But honestly, how could I be anything else responsibly as my eyes are continually open to painful experiences of people whose pain I wasn't even aware of? Can I be angry and joyful? back to our friend Ingrid Fettel-Lee, which
Yes.
truly during the parade last night, I mentioned, did you put that in after you saw this? Because there are so many articles, but I was drawn to this because this designer and founder of the publication, The Aesthetics of Joy, she addresses this quandary directly in her recent article called Joy and Anger, How to Hold On to Joy Amid Strong Emotions. And in this article, Lee notes that what's important to recognize is that anger and joy are simply different kinds of fuel. While anger feeds resistance, joy feeds restoration. Moments of joy help us recharge our batteries, increasing our resilience so that we're better able to take action in the future. I'm thinking of the way that a moment of laughter in the midst of a terrible fight with your partner can temporarily shatter the tension. It doesn't erase the conflict, but it breaks the deadlock, allowing you to come back to the fight calmer, perhaps slightly more able to listen. But more than that, and I really like this part, joy also reminds us what we're fighting for. It gives us glimpses of what makes life worth living. If we only have anger, then the risk is that we're defending the boundaries of a hollow country. And even if we win, we may return from battle to a place irreparably scarred by war. But if we make space for joy alongside our fury, then we're cultivating a deep well of power. There can be joy in the fight, but perhaps there must be fight in our joy as well. As we go forth, may we carry the flame of peace with justice and love. Look at us, putting some joy in our fight, right? Putting some fight in our joy. It seems like this change might be onto something. Anyway, going back to the quote, Lee points out that joy gives us glimpses of what makes life worth living. That's important. It's not that it gives you permission to ignore the suffering of others, but it's a reminder that joy in and of itself is not a selfish act. Denying oneself joy, even when coming from a desire to create equity, can leave us immobilized by anger, guilt, and shame. It seems that we may end up unable to help or even positively interact with others when our lives are not tempered with some degree of action-inspiring joy. Look, I see the truth in this, but even believing that and truly seeing it in others, if I'm honest with you, my position on the upside of our world's staggering equity gap is never far from my awareness. And as I sit with these prickly emotions longer and longer, I've come to believe more and more that every person with any modicum of power or privilege should be ashamed of that injustice. Shame is a dangerous, tricky, loaded word, but let me just further clarify that there's another article that I really liked, an op-ed piece that was ironically titled, "How Can I Cure My White Guilt?" And when I saw the headline, I was like, oh, perfect. But in it, the staff writer, Cheryl Strayed, notes that, like I was just talking about, that the shame of injustice is different than being ashamed of being white or straight, male, etc. You don't have to relinquish your heritage to be an ally to marginalized individuals. You have to relinquish your privilege. And part of learning how to do that is accepting that feelings of shame, anger, and the sense that sometimes people are perceiving you in ways that you don't believe are accurate or fair. That's part of the process that you and I and all white people must endure in order to dismantle a toxic system that has perpetuated white supremacy for centuries. That in fact, those painful feelings, those sensitive, discomfort, uncomfortable, prickly feelings, those are not problems to be solved or really wounds to be tended to. Racism and injustice are. My personal religious heritage comes with a devastating laundry list of racism and injustice. just to catch you all up on depressing things going on in the world that I come from. Recently, the man who's next in line to be the head of the Mormon Church made national news by denying that he ever knew about a well-documented program of gay conversion electroshock treatments that took place for more than 2 decades while he was president of, you guessed it, my alma mater. Heritage. Anyway, a few years ago, the same man, I remember when this happened, this was right around the time, maybe a year after Leah and I formally exited from the church we were raised in. And there was just so many things that happened right after that it just really made the choice feel like the right decision. And this was one of them. In a press conference dealing with, most people, if you were to stop them on the street and ask them what they know about Mormons, lots of wives and they don't like black people, right? I mean, I think that one of the things that or historically, right? I don't want to offend anybody, but I mean, most people know that that's a thing, or at least was a thing. But anyway, in an opportunity to address that really prickly, problematic history, this man, who I've shook hands with and met a couple of times, said to the people, "The history of our church is not to seek apologies nor to give them. We sometimes look back on issues and say, maybe that was counterproductive for what we wish to achieve. But we look forward and not backward." Oof. Right? Ouch. You're probably wondering, Hank, why are you bringing this up in your reflection on joy? Stay with me, okay? In response to this hurtful denial, a recent episode of a podcast that I enjoy and I find necessary in my life to unpack all of these difficult things, the episode in response directly to this event was dealing with a very interesting question as to why it is that fundamentalist religions, not that they won't, but that they cannot apologize for past atrocities. And at one point, the host of this episode, who is a gay liberal Mormon father of a transgender daughter, it's an interesting combination of words in a sentence, right? I'll say that one more time. An openly gay liberal Mormon father of a transgender daughter shared his struggle as his Mormon bishop continually asked, even after being repeatedly corrected on the preferred pronouns of his child, what the congregation could do to welcome his son into their program. Needless to say, this father quickly realized that although he had been able to carve out a liberal niche for himself in this congregation, he could not guarantee the same safety for his daughter. And as the story continued, I was delighted to hear that after a period adrift, this man and his family found their local Unitarian Universalist congregation, woot woot, where his daughter was, of course, openly welcome and accepted. And the next 30 minutes of this episode just basically served as an effusive testimonial about the marvels of being UU. And one area that this literally happened this week, I added this yesterday, and I was very glad because I was struggling with how to, not that I'm necessarily going to put a neat bow on all of these complicated things, but it gave me a little bit of something to chew on, and I want to share it with you. He honed in on the fact that Unitarian Universalists, unlike fundamentalists, they don't have to reshape their narrative whenever their God or leaders do or say something unsavory. UUs are able to apologize because we aren't governed by our infallible leaders or deities. We are governed by our 7 principles. And if an action or comment from a member or leader does not align with those principles, we aren't left to do mental gymnastics to figure out why those actions or words aren't really that bad if you think about it. We have a structure that allows for and even models sincere apologies marked with restorative action. And although I have certainly felt that, and we've felt that in our family and talked about it in our time here, almost 4 years now at SFUU, hearing this young woman's story articulated in this way, juxtaposed with where we come from, really highlighted why time spent with all of you brings me joy. As we all work together with our different strengths and quirky personalities and backgrounds, we don't reshape our narratives to reinforce why we're right and everyone else is wrong. We live with our difficult realities and complexities. And we've inherited these. No one, privileged or marginalized, chooses their heritage. But we're here today because we choose to be. We're not content with the way things are in the world. We hope for a future filled with joy for the interdependent web of all existence of which we are a part. We are prepared to apologize, learn, and change. And walking this path with all of you brings me great, great joy. Blessed be.
You can take a break if you want. Do you want a break? Okay, yeah. Okay, we'll give you a break. Enjoy the joy you shared with us. And this is a time for practice, right? You know, it's really important. The theory, I oftentimes come with the scholars and the theory, and I love to have members of the congregation to come forward and do the show, right? This is the practice. This is what I do. And then we invite the whole congregation to practice and practice giving, right, as we receive. So at this moment, you will get an opportunity to put your faith in practice, your belief, your joy, giving out of joy, not of obligation, right, or guilt, because we will do what we can do, and everything that we have is what you bring in, and that's enough, right? That's enough for us to do what we're called to do. And this month, we are sharing all that is given with the NorCal Resist, a group of community members organizing to build an infrastructure against immigratory oppression and empowering our communities through shared resources and support. So as you give, know that your giving is going to bring joy to those who may be undocumented and not have some privileges, but we can share our privileges and what we have. So as you prepare to give, let us receive the gift that Patty has prepared for us this morning. Mm-hmm. One last offering. If you're interested in continuing your reflection this Sunday, there's a book called The Art of Happiness by His Holiness the Dalai Lama. I'll have the book. You can take a look at it. And my understanding that his use of happiness is what I try to communicate to you as being joy. Yeah, it's the unshakable, not conditional moments. And as we prepare to go out into the world, here's a benediction from Reverend Scott Taylor. It's called It's Flung. And after this benediction, we'll do the words to extinguish the chalice. That we're changed it a little bit. We massaged the language a little bit. So we're going to try it. It's going to be on a screen, so you'll be able to read it along, and we see how it feels. So we're working together, right? And we're growing together, and we're adapting. So here are the words of a blessing for us this morning. Joy doesn't simply arise. It flies, it flings. No, it's flung. It is passed. It is spread between you and me, between the one who just received a gift and the one that has been looking for it all along. It is a beautiful and elegant contagion over which we have more control than we think, if only we share it. So let's light up the world, friends. Joy blesses us with its exuberance, so we can make that blessing grow. So for our words, our closing words of chalice, yes, there you go. So we're going to try that, yeah? So let's try that in one voice as you feel moved. As we go forth, may we carry the flame of love with peace and justice until we meet again. Blessed be. Blessed be. And give us your feedback if this resonated with you, felt a little easier to say, and most importantly, what we're definitely doing, right? Walking the talk. And in that spirit, you're invited to walk outside with us, because you get a chance to sing that lovely song. Yes? All right. Thank you. That was brilliant. You too. Brilliant.